Coach, we saw Shaun Crawford working with corner today. He's obviously very versatile this entire camp. Where have you seen him grow and putting himself back in a position to play at cornerback for you?
Well, Shaun is one of our, smartest football players in terms of his football intelligence and his, understanding of the game, his ability to read route combinations. And so, we were hurting at safety due to injury, so we wanted to move him inside, see what he could do, what he could bring to the team as a safety. And then obviously, he brings a lot of value to our team with his position versatility, being able to play both safety and nickel and corner. And so, he's an outstanding player. He's a guy that we got to get into the season healthy, and a guy that we're going to depend on greatly during the course of the season.
I know you felt in the past, especially in practice, that you have to monitor Crawford's workload. How key is that going forward? You said get into the season, but there's the 12 games.
Right. Obviously, with his past history, right before the season is when he's had, his issues with his injuries. But we've really done a good job of tempering his play count and just getting a good understanding of where he is health-wise on a day-to-day basis, and just making sure that we give him enough work to get him ready to play at a very high level, but at the same time not wear him down so he can get in a position where he'll injure himself.
And the last one for me, Vaughn looked like he had a strong start to camp but missed some time with injury. Are you just getting him back now, and where is he in that mix?
Yeah, we're just getting him back now, and missed a couple of days, but he's fine. He's ready to go, and moving him around, just seeing what he can do both at the boundary and the field corner, and he's done a great job, and we really look forward to leaning on him and his ability to make plays for us down the field, and obviously with a player of his caliber and his experience, that he's going to be a big key for us moving forward in the secondary.
Julian Love was definitely a guy who mentioned you as his mentor. What do you think is going to be the keys to him to do with the New York Giants or at the next level anywhere that he did here from the time that you worked with him?
I think Julian will have an excellent career with New York. He loves the game of football. He's a great teammate. He studies the game. He works extremely hard at perfecting both fundamentals and technique, and has a great understanding of schemes and concepts, and does a really good job of having a natural feel for the game, be able to read route combinations and be able to react accordingly to what the offense is giving him. But from what I've understood, that he's playing inside both at the nickel and the safety position, a little bit outside. And right now I think he's leading to start at the nickelback position, and he'll get a lot of reps at safety. And I know, from having worked with him for the last couple of years, he's a very strong football player. And as the season wears on, there'll be a lot of opportunities for him to play all over that Giants secondary. I know he's going to add value to that group, and he'll be able to make a lot of plays and win a lot of games for the New York Giants.
Todd, we've all been amazed watching Kyle Hamilton in this fall camp. What have you seen from him specifically that has stood out the most?
Kyle's done a great job. I think that, the one thing I really admire about Kyle is him being such a young player, his ability to, learn the defense and to be able to react accordingly. He does a really, really good job of studying, which you don't really see from a lot of younger players. There was one instance when he came out to the practice field and we were going through walkthrough and he brought his notebook. Thought that was pretty interesting. Had never seen that before. And so that just lets you know how detailed he is in his preparation. And I think, he has a very bright future here at the University of Notre Dame.
Yeah, Alohi joked that he's like 10 feet tall. Having someone that tall in that safety position, how valuable is that?
Yeah, obviously, with his length, and his speed, he has great range. And, with a player of that size, even when you're out of phase, you're still never really out of the play, due to, his length and his wingspan. And so great ball skills. He's been a great teammate. He's done a really, really good job of, coming in and assimilating into the group, and really excited to work with him and all of our younger players. We have a young group that's very talented. And I think that, our expectation is to play at a very high level throughout the entire season to give us a chance to be very, very successful this season.
Why is it especially important to be competitive playing cornerback? And how competitive is a guy like Troy Pride on and off the field?
Yeah, compete level is huge at the cornerback position because, to me, and this is just my humble opinion, it's probably the most difficult position to play on defense, due to the fact that you're defending a lot of space, you're moving backwards, and you're probably playing against one of the better offensive players, on the field. Compete level is really, really huge because to be really successful at the cornerback position, you have to have the win-at-all-cost mentality. And I tell my guys all the time, you're never going to win every rep. You go into a game, let's say you play 100 plays. You're looking to win 98 of them. And if you win 98 of them and, you blow 2 plays and you lose 2 plays, you have a chance of not having a very good game. And so every snap is really, really critical. So that's why, the compete level at cornerback is so critical to be successful.
Yeah. Your various stops, who have been some of the biggest influences on the way you coach and the way you try to get through, especially to younger players? You're a high-energy guy. You try to keep their spirits up, like you say, at that position.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who are some of those guys?
Through camp, it gets very tough at times, especially for young players to keep pushing themselves past their comfort level. And, so for me, one of the greats obviously was Coach Holtz. He was a huge factor in, helping me to become the player that I was. We always stress mental and physical toughness. In order to play this game at a very high level, you're going to have to be both mentally and physically tough, and it's going to vary at times. Also, a player that influenced me in terms of, preparation was Marshall Faulk, interestingly enough. I remember we were sitting down and we had a conversation about playing not at 100%, and then he made an interesting comment to me. He said, I kind of like it when I'm not at 100% because it makes me focus more. And I thought that was a really interesting point, and I had never really looked at it like that because, think about it. If you're not at 100%, obviously, the mental part of your game has to pick up because physically you're not all there. And, it's true, and I changed my mindset in terms of, the way I felt in my preparation. And so I try to relay that to the players. I was like, going through the course of the season, probably from August on, you're not going to be at 100%. You're going to vary somewhere between 85 and 96, 97%. You know what I mean? But you have to understand, you have to have the right mindset going into each work day, to do the right things, to practice with the right habits, practice with the right type of energy, and be able to execute at a very high level to give our defense a chance to win a national championship.
And then how much of it is, especially with those young guys, you've had success bringing guys, getting them to play quickly early in their careers. How much is it just even away from the field, keeping their spirits up, rebuilding their confidence?
Right.
You're not really breaking them down. You're trying to keep them propped up because it's such a win-at-all-costs
Absolutely.
position.
Nowadays, the student athlete is a little bit different from when I played. Kids are very in tune to what's going on. They want to develop relationships. They want to build relationships. They want to communicate with coaches, sometimes on a daily basis. And some players need that. Some players need it more so than others. I try to be in tune with that with our players and give them everything they need in terms of, building relationships and, obviously giving them the information to be successful, on not only the weekday in terms of what they're going to do on the football field, but also in terms of, how they're going to move forward in their life in a positive direction. And every student athlete's a little bit different. Some need more hugs than others, but I really enjoy building the relationships with all the guys, not only the guys in the secondary, but everybody on our team. Because here at the University of Notre Dame, we bring in a special caliber of student athlete, and they're really, really a joy to coach. Sometimes, you'll go to coaching conventions or you'll be other places where some other coaches, and you hear some of the stories about some of the other student athletes that they have to deal with, and you always thank the good Lord that you have the opportunity to be at a place like the University of Notre Dame to work with the quality kids that we do.
Todd, what has allowed Troy Pride to make the transition from playing field to boundary cornerback?
I think the biggest thing for Troy in his transition from field to boundary is his experience. He's gained a lot of confidence because he's played in a lot of games, started in a lot of games, played in a lot of really, really big games. I know, the Clemson game, last year, even though it wasn't, we didn't get the result that we wanted, he played really well personally. And he gained a lot of confidence from that. And then, knowing the way our defense is set up and knowing the way college football is, he realizes that the boundary corner is going to get a majority of the work. And, he wanted to take that responsibility on his shoulders, being a veteran player in our secondary. And, he thought that he was ready for the task, and we feel the same. I think that Troy's had a really, really good camp. in terms of repetitions and number of play count, he's had the most plays under his belt during the course of the camp, and he never wavered once. And, shown a lot of mental and physical toughness, which I love, and, getting better every day with his technique. And I think that Troy's poised to have a really big year.
What does Tariq Bracy need to do to be a consistent role player, maybe even the starting corner on the opposite side of Troy?
Yeah, I think that Tariq just needs to bring a little bit more consistency to his game. Tariq is a really outstanding player, very fluid, smooth athlete. Obviously, being a younger guy, he's going to have to develop in the weight room a little bit more, and that's normal. When guys come in from high school, they usually weigh anywhere between 170 to 185 pounds, and, to play cornerback at the college level, at elite level, you need to be up in the 190 range. And so, he's working on that and, working really hard in the film room, trying to get an understanding and the grasp of the intricacies of our defense. And, I'm really excited about his future. He's a young guy who showed a lot of poise coming in as a freshman and playing in some really big games. And he wasn't successful at all times, but he showed me a lot of toughness, a lot of grit, and I'm really excited about his future.
Coach, just kind of a big picture, but from the time you were a player here to when you did return as a coach, where do you feel like Notre Dame, the university, the program changed the most, or did it?
You know what? I don't think the program changed. I really don't. I just think that nowadays with the recruiting, it's just a little bit tougher to bring in a lot of the five-star athletes. I remember when I was here in my 4 years, I think we had the top recruiting class twice out of the 4 years I was here. Now, we're going to range anywhere between 15 and 5. We want to be closer to the 5, and, we're at a point now where we're trying to break into that top 5. And I just think that, with the diversity of college football and the landscape of college football, there's a lot more prestigious teams, where, especially with the media markets now, there's a lot more exposures for teams where, 25 years ago, Notre Dame was always on TV, so we had the most exposure. Now, you get the ACC network and SEC network, and so there's a lot more exposure. And so kids are really in tune to that and understanding that, they can go to a different school and still get a lot of exposure and TV time.